Alrighty, it's Friday night. I am excited. We're going to have another show. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about aliens and UFOs and space and lasers and phasers and photon torpedoes. Maybe. I don't think so.
St. Patty's Day.
Oh, whatever.
Oh, break my heart.
I'm a total nerd. That doesn't work with me. It's like,
well, maybe
okay.
people are drinking green beer tonight.
Maybe.
It's celebrating our
I
show.
don't know. Let's say hi to some people.
What they be drinking.
Let's see what's going on, and then I'll go over the rules. Who do we got? Who we got so far? We got Robert and JD and Daniel and Robert again, and Diane. Lots of people coming in. This is great. I like seeing everyone just popping in. That's good. All right, so let me get to the rules. The rules.
Jade Kitten.
So rule number 1 is that you are always welcome to ask questions. That's what we do here. It's a learning show. You ask questions. I have questions. Yay. Sometimes we have answers.
Sometimes we don't.
We'll see. Yes, sometimes we don't. And I have my special notebook here so I can take notes and remind myself later and look stuff up, like a fear cage that we might talk about later or maybe next week. Rule number two is that I don't know everything. And I think I actually covered that already. Rule number 3.
What are you drinking?
We're just going to go across to number 3 and say that we follow the Patrick Swayze rule here. And that is, you can be in the chat room and you can discuss, you can debate, you can disagree, and just don't agree to disagree. I don't like that phrase. We can talk about that later. But just be nice about it. That's all I say. Be professional, be polite-ish. But if you devolve into name calling and cursing and stuff like that, Donna will boot your ass out of here.
Yeah, I will.
That's right.
Rule
number 4.
There's think straights in the house.
Rule number 4 is that questions, please start them with a Q. That way it's easier for Donna to pick them out of the comments.
Yeah.
Plus tonight, because we have a guest coming on, we're going to save all the questions throughout the show until the second hour after our pee break. Because the first hour is always about me and the guest talking, having conversation, getting to know each other. And rule number 5 is my favorite, and I'm going to take off this and bring on our guest because I know rule number 5 is also his favorite. And we got Brian done. Cheers,
welcome,
my friend.
Brian.
Ooh.
And Red Man.
Everybody. So, Brian, how are you?
Reed.
I am excellent.
Yeah.
It is such fun, such a relief to be this near the finish line on this movie because it's taken up so much time for really since October.
Yeah.
Like 6 months full time on top of full time.
So before we get into it, let's get into it. What's this movie? What are we talking about?
So, we here at Skeptoid Media, we're always working on, we try to always be working on a documentary film. And this one was a little bit different because Skeptoid Media is stretched super, super thin right now because we're doing some other projects also. So I said, hey, I'll do this one on the side by myself. So, I mean, really, it's the same as if Skeptoid did it, but actually, technically, I did it as like a solo project.
Okay.
But nevertheless, following the same rules and guidelines and have the same goals as we do at Skeptoid, which is we're trying to spread critical thinking and science literacy. So we finished Science Friction. That got released in 2022. ScienceFriction.tv is the website. You can find it on all the streaming services. And that's a fantastic movie. It's all interviews with scientists who got taken out of context on TV shows, on the pseudoscience and pseudohistory TV shows.
And it's good. I'm gonna break in. It's good. I've watched it. I've actually seen several versions of it, I think. Because the first viewing was at SciCon that I was.
Yeah, that was just, we had just a little bit of pre-footage that hadn't even been edited yet and everything. That was just a very early pre-screening. But yeah, the final film is a full feature documentary that's up there now.
Yeah. But it was fun seeing the progression. Yeah.
Yeah. It got better in some ways and worse in some ways. Boy, I'm so good at marketing. So we finished that one, and it's like, okay, what are we going to work on? What's the next movie? And I think I literally went to Twitter and said, hey, what should I make a movie about?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And the leading answer was UFOs, because that's It's one of these kind of skeptical topics that is probably more in the news now than any other,
Yeah.
which is really kind of sad, especially because the way that it's in the news. We've got people in Congress who seem to genuinely believe that we've got aliens visiting us.
Yeah.
And if they don't think it's aliens, they think it's, oh, there you go. They think it's Russians and Chinese and national security threats.
Okay.
And what they've got for their evidence is the same blurry videos of weather balloons and Mylar party balloons that we've always had
Yeah.
since the camera was invented. So it was a great opportunity. That was kind of the obvious topic. So
Okay.
this is a full feature-length presentation on the real science behind what's going on with this modern UFO phenomenon.
Okay. So when you say the science behind this modern phenomena, like what do you mean by that? What kind of science? Because I mean, everything that we see in the news now, everything is aliens. It's really that meme has come to life, and
yeah, it's kind of horrifying, but that's true.
It is.
So there's a number of different answers to that. First of all, when we talk about UFOs, really people are saying alien visitation. I'm sure there's some people who think it's Russians and Chinese, but really the bulk of the ufologist community is synonymous with the alien visitation advocates.
Okay.
That's what they think is going on. So there is science behind the possibility, probability of the existence of alien civilizations, the science behind how one civilization might potentially visit another, the problems with that, the latest in astrobiology, exobiology, how we learn what exoplanets out there might possibly have other life on them, and what hypothetical alien astrobiologists would think looking at Earth with their space telescopes.
Wow.
Given that there are, countless billions of rocky exoplanets in the Goldilocks zone, just in the Milky Way alone, we have data on just one of those, and it's Earth. And Earth is absolutely blanketed, carpeted in life of every imaginable description. So you got to figure that there's other life out there. And I think, this is just conjecture at this point, I think there's a lot of it. But every astrobiologist I've ever spoken to believes that there's life. They differ on their estimates of how much, but it's out there. And so you got to figure that somewhere there's probably been at some point a alien astrobiologist looking at Earth through a space telescope.
Yeah.
In some form or another. And here's what they would see. And here's how we know, here's what we look for in the spectra, the different types of spectra, and the different types of life that show up and what those spectra look like. So there's a lot that we can find out. So there's actually is a lot of science behind the question of, are there aliens out there? And what's the possibility that they might be interested in Earth? There is real science there. That's not all just pure conjecture.
Right.
And then we've got the Navy videos and all of this stuff. And there's a lot that we can talk about in those. And so we do go into that as well.
Okay. It's so hard. Like, I want to ask you all these questions, but I know you're saving it for the film. But I mean, so I get that question a lot about, like, what do I think about life out in space? Is there life out there? And my answer is pretty much the same thing. It's there's gotta be. There's not only the science behind it, but I mean, just personal belief. I hope there is, because this can't be the only freaking place in the universe that would be depressing, really.
No, but what you're bringing up now is, I think, the most important starting point for a film like this. And when you're trying to do effective communication and effective outreach, what do you want to find? You want to find common ground, right? You want to find the things that we all agree on. And everyone agrees, whether you believe in aliens or not, we all agree that it would be awesome if there were aliens, and we would love to be able to meet them. We would love to be able to find out what their culture is like, what their civilization is like. Yeah. So we all share that. And the science supports the probability of their existence. And that's something that we all think is cool. And then to whatever degree there are problems in physics with the ability to do visitation, we all agree that that's a problem that sucks, and it's a problem that we hate. So this film is all about common ground. And my idea in making it is whatever your perspective is on the UFO question, this film will better inform that perspective with science. We're
Okay.
not debunking anything. We're not telling anyone that their cherished belief is not true. It's not that kind of thing at all. It's better informing everyone's opinion with science. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. So when your trailer came out, I watched it. I got the newsletter and I was like, oh, yeah, cool. Let me see it. And I was like, I'm watching like a sci-fi war movie. They're about to get it on.
Yeah, looks like a Jerry Bruckheimer movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and there were a bunch of people that did ask me, like, where is this going? Like, what direction? What side of the fence is this on? So, how do you answer that?
So when you make I'm going to often adjust my little earbuds here. When you make any movie, you always make a bunch of different trailers. In fact, anyone watching right now who's ever seen any movie trailer, you didn't just watch the trailer, you watched a trailer and you were part of a test marketing campaign. Especially trailers that are shown online, they want to know which trailers get the most people starting the video, and most importantly, which trailers get watched all the way through to the end, because that's how you know you've captured audience. And then you got all of these things like, everything like the Facebook pixel and all of these little marketing gadgets that are embedded on every web page. That's super important information for the filmmakers, because they get all that data back and they know which trailer works with what target audience. They're able to better refine who the target audience is by what people are watching the videos. And you get all this information. So this was just the very first trailer that we put out. And if you watch it, obviously, I mean, it looks like Jeremy Corbell made it or something. It's, all aliens and scary and drama and, oh my God, the aliens are coming to wipe us out. Yes, it's very much that kind of a trailer. And then we're going to make trailers that are very much the opposite. It's going to be a bunch of, dry video of me sitting there going, blah, 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 blah. And see how that trailer does. So I'm going to make as many of them as we can. This is just the first one.
Okay. So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I like
very
that.
Cool.
You'll get different viewpoints, and I guess it's good because it almost casts a wide net. You're trying to reach all these different people. What's your target audience? Like, who are the people? Because I know sometimes, like when we do lectures or talks or whatever, sometimes we are preaching to the choir. So is this made for skeptics, or is this made for something else?
My target audience, my goal in making this is to provide a counter perspective for basically the TV networks that are producing misinformation. They're just trying to be sensationalist. They take every old UFO story and they present it as if it's a true alien visitation case. And there's essentially no skepticism involved in that at all. So I'm trying to promote a alternate perspective. I'm trying to get people to the target audience, to directly answer your question, is going to be the people who are watching those TV shows and who find them persuasive. And I'm trying to give them a counter perspective. And I am not presenting a skeptical perspective that's going to turn them off. Again, 99% of what's in this is common ground. So I truly believe that it's something everyone will enjoy watching, and I hope it's going to deliver the message that I hope to deliver.
Ooh, we have ghosts. Things are falling off the shelf.
That was funny. I didn't.
If anyone's going to have ghosts, it's you.
It's
all right.
me.
It's about time something happened.
Whatever.
A whole bunch of
ghosts
shit
or
fell down.
aliens. Oh boy. So how long? I mean, when you did you just get up one day and say, I want to make a movie? I mean, I know you had another project, and Skeptoid is stretched. It's because you guys do a lot. So did you kind of just get up one day and say, I'm going to make this? And how long did it take?
So, I mean, yeah, I knew we needed to make another movie because that's part of that's part of why our donors support us at Skeptoid Media, is because we're producing a lot of stuff. And most of the people who donated to this project are the same people who would normally be donating to a Skeptoid project. So really, it's all going to the same place. So I had the same pressure on me. When people donate money expecting that you're going to promote an educational message that they feel is important,
Right.
that's a lot of pressure on you. You've got to deliver what they expect you to deliver. And ever since then, probably 6 months ago is when I kind of green lighted this whole thing. Ever since then, UFOs have been just getting more and more and more in the news. And
Yep.
every day there's something new. And it's like, oh my God, I got to get this out. I got to get this out. I got to get this out. So yeah, I had a huge rush on me from the beginning. I mean, I started this one with an Indiegogo campaign. Again, it's not through the nonprofit, so we're not going through the fundraising stuff that we have built in. So I started with an Indiegogo campaign, which got us most of the way there. Individual donors filled 80% of what was left. So I got pretty much everything I needed to make the film. Had to buy a lot of new equipment and everything. And this is a decision I would not repeat. I did a lot of the production, a lot of the trips all by myself, setting up the lights and cameras and everything all by myself and everything. And then, okay, everything's set, and wiring everyone for sound, and then sitting down and then discovering something's not right and getting up and fixing it and everything. No, I'm bringing a PA and probably a cinematographer and a real sound guy to everything in the future. But it's good enough.
Yeah.
So we had probably about 4 months of production, about 2 months of post-production. And just this week, today's Friday, and just this week, I got to picture lock. And picture lock means that you're not making any more changes to the timeline of the film, to the visual element of the film. So that means you export the whole film as a ProRes 422 HQ file, which is what goes to the colorist.
Okay.
And the colorist is the guy who takes the whole movie and fixes the color in every single shot. Makes everything look beautiful, fixes a whole array of problems. And then the sound file then goes to the sound mixer, and then kind of a lower res version of the whole movie, like an HD version, because the movie's in 4K, goes to the composer. So right now, as of this week, I got 3 guys starting on it: the composer, the colorist, and the sound mixer.
Wow.
And I get to now sit back and go for a few weeks while they all do their thing. It's probably going to take about a month, maybe a week or two, more or less. And then it all gets back to me, and I put it back together, and then it's boom. Then it goes out to distributors.
Awesome.
Nice. And this is going to be available like on Prime or Netflix or what?
So that's probably the case. I have a number of distributors lined up that I'm going to send it to. If they want to do a deal with it, then they're going to have their own release plan. That's a black box to me.
Okay.
But most likely, it's going to be a grassroots distribution, like Science Friction ended up being, which means I take it to an aggregator. Like there's a number of them. There's one called Film Hub. There's one called Indie Rights. There's 2 or 3 more, and they just kind of put it in bulk, and they make it available to all the streaming services. And the streaming services say, "Yeah, I'll take that one, that one, that one, and that one." And it just kind of goes up, and it's available. The disadvantage with doing it that way is there's no marketing machine behind it. So it's never going to get recommended. It's not going to be presented as a Netflix original or anything like that.
Right.
So no one's going to find out about it unless I tell them about it. So you've got to have an ongoing marketing expense in that case. So that's why you go through the distributors first, because there's going to be a marketing campaign behind it.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. When I start making movies and stuff.
While UFOs are so big right now, hopefully you won't have that problem.
Yeah.
It is. That's very much in my favor. I mean, Science Friction was a film that, it's kind of always relevant, but it's not in the headlines.
Right.
Ever. And this is absolutely in the headlines now. So it'll generate a lot more attention than the projects I've done in the past. And speaking of generating attention, I mean, the title of the movie, have we even mentioned that?
No, we didn't.
I don't think so.
The title is The UFO Movie They Don't Want You to See.
That's perfect.
Okay, now we were actually workshopping titles. We had like 20 different titles, and people are voting on them, and I put it out on Facebook. Hey, what does everyone like? And someone suggested this title as a joke, and so I had it on there, and it got the most votes. Everyone liked it the most, and so I whittled the list down, and it still got more votes than everything else put together. And it's a goofy title, and it kind of suggests a conspiracy theory angle and everything. But the thing is, it gets attention, and people
It
remember it,
does.
and people talk about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
no other title that we had that people would actually talk about.
Right.
So I decided, you know what? The hell with it. It
Yeah.
works.
That's
It's-
good.
I think it's perfect. I mean, I would watch it, and I'm not even into UFOs.
Every night, like part of my normal nighttime ritual is to watch YouTube. And I
Yeah.
love watching like videos that make me learn and science channels and stuff like that. And I can't tell you how many in between because of my interest, I get both science and the far paranormal. Everything's a demon possessing everyone at the same time kind of show. And once in a while, I mean, actually, a lot I see titles that are always the evidence they don't want you to know, or the moon landing hoax, top 10 facts and figures they don't want you to know, like over and over again.
Yeah.
So when you brought that out, when you posted that for the first time, I'm like, son of a bitch, man.
It's perfect.
That's good. That's good. Take
Well,
advantage of it.
I was surprised to see that title hadn't been used before. And there's a guy total charlatan named Kevin Trudeau, who's been in and out of jail for all these violations of Federal Trade Commission and everything, selling bullshit products, taking advantage of people. He's a horrible, horrible person. And he's currently making a movie. I think it's called the movie Doctors Don't Want You to See.
Oh, jeez.
And so I'm looking at this on IMDb, and IMDb has this little scoring system for what's popular right now. And I'm proud to say the UFO movie They Don't Want You to See kicked the hell out of the ass of the movie Doctors Don't Want You to See.
Awesome.
That's good. So how many you traveled around? I followed everything. You were going everywhere interviewing people. How many interviews did you end up doing, and how many made the cut?
There are 10 people in the film, I think, 10 or 11, and we filmed 3 people at one location, and one of them did not make it in. I believe that's it. There was a few pieces of media that people wouldn't sign the release form for.
Okay.
But that's okay because I ended up with something better.
Oh, okay.
In each case. So
have you
the release forms are pretty draconian. What? Go ahead.
Have you run into that with your other films about filming somebody or interviewing somebody and then either right on the spot or later on they tell you, no, we don't want you to use?
Well, we did a lot with Science Friction. Science Friction, we filmed way more interviews than made it into the movie, and we talked to way more people than we filmed. I mean, I probably talked to close to 100 people for that, and we shot probably 20, 30, and God, it's been so long, I don't remember how many people are in the film, but probably around 15 or 20. So yeah, people changed their mind with that. I mean, that was a tough topic because with Science Friction, you're asking people to go on camera and say, I was on television and they totally screwed me.
Yeah.
And I'm upset about that, which means that nobody's ever going to want them on camera again because they did that. Right. So people had an understandable reason, whether you agree with it or not. It was understandable that they changed their minds and didn't want to be in the film. We didn't really have that with this. I talked to some, if anyone who's related to the military or defense or anything, or really any government agency, they cannot go on camera and talk. That's the end of it. They can't do it. If they're retired, they can. And so most of the people that I spoke with were retired. And one of them decided he saw the release form and said, oh, this is signing my life away. I'm not going to do this. And the release form does have to be really, really tough. And the reason for that is, the release form basically says, well, I'm going to film this. I can do anything the hell I want with it. I can turn it, twist it, and do whatever. And you have no say or no recourse ever. And I have to have that because if I don't, then no distributor is going to touch the film because distributors have to be able to make trailers.
Right.
They have to be able to put it in foreign languages. They have to be able to do things with it that do include manipulation of the footage. Making a trailer is manipulation of the footage. And they can't have any limitations on it. If you give them any limitations at all, they're going to say, sorry, I got 55 other films right here that I can work on without any
Wow.
concerns.
Wow.
So it's a tough release form, but anyone who understands the business, signs it without any hesitation. But in this, I was talking to people who don't have experience with the business, and so, I understand. I tried to explain to them, and they don't go for it. They don't go for it. No problem.
Good question.
You said that you were interviewed X number of people, but how many aliens did you interview? Inquiring minds want to know. Well, that's
one or two of them I would categorize as an alien, but
what's your I want to say what was your favorite interview, but I want to say it better. I want to say, like, what was the interview that surprised you the most? Did anything surprise you about something?
Well, no. I mean, the way I produce a movie is different from probably most documentaries. I think it's important to note that really all documentaries are someone's propaganda. Someone's got their personal, passionate position they're trying to promote. That's a lot of P's. And so, when they go out to, Uganda to show what the Generalissimo is doing to the people in the villages, they're trying to show that these poor people are being slaughtered or whatever it is. I mean, that's a totally fictional example. And so they generally know who they're going to interview, and they know who those people are and what they're going to say, because it's generally people they know. So you don't have so much of a problem as that. And in this, I definitely knew almost everyone who I interviewed. There was about 4 people in the film who I was introduced to, but who were very much on board with the pro-science message, and we knew what they were going to say. What I do is I write out the film first, including sample text for what the interviews are going to consist of. So when I go to do the interviews, I have very specific questions. And I'm always very clear with people. I say, don't say what you think I want you to say. Give me your honest impression. And often I'll tell them what I'm going for, what I'm hoping they'll say. Maybe they agree with that, maybe they don't. I'm not going to use it if they. I'm not going to do like with the practice we criticized in science fiction, which is to edit what they said out of context to make it fit my method. I don't do that at all. But honestly, that never came up in this film, because we're talking about pro-science positions. I'm talking to astrobiologists, astrophysicists. We're all on the same page anyway. The science is what the science is. And a number of the people in the film were personal friends of mine who I knew what they were going to say. I've been doing this kind of thing a long time, so I'm generally pretty well connected. I've got friends in many different sciences and many different fields. And so I've got a pretty good assortment of people to choose from to get the message out that I want to get. So you go and you do the interview, you get it transcribed, and then you rewrite the script with exactly what they said. And then you kind of write around that, because the film is narrated beginning to end by me. So that was the very last thing that we filmed, was my narration. And so by then everything was already done. And so you've got a very cohesive, beginning to end, thoroughly written piece. And for my method, that works very well. And so editing it was a piece of cake, because I had it, I've got the documents right here. I got the transcriptions and everything, and everything is marked what every piece of film was. And so editing the movie was really just conforming it to the written transcription that was already done.
Okay.
So
did you come across anyone, did you interview anybody that was not for the science, that was on the other side?
No, and that was a very deliberate decision, kind of through the process of developing this, and really over the last year or so, I've made a conscious decision that, you know what, I'm tired of engaging with people who are trying to spread the misinformation, people who are on the wrong side. There's no value in engaging with them. So I didn't go out to the advocates of alien visitation and give them a platform in my film. I'm trying to communicate good science.
Right.
And so why would I add bad anti-science to that message? There's so much that's positive to communicate in science communication. I don't need to go and argue with people who are giving out bad information, because there's a lot of positive messaging to give. So I've kind of settled on that's what I enjoy doing. So
Yeah.
no, I
I
did
I
not go.
totally agree.
That's good. I like that because I mean,
I hate all those bullshit TV shows that we watch. You know, the ones.
she's dropping curse words.
No, where it's like, oh, well, they show you a piece of land and there's a footprint in the middle of nowhere and it says, oh, well, this could be an alien. And then they go into 10 minutes on why it's not. And then, oh, well, it could be a rock that slid across the sand. Oh, no, it's not that either. And a whole hour worth of bullshit. And just for them to say, oh, the rock just slid.
It slid on ice.
Yeah. Tell you right now, this is the opposite of that kind of documentary. I mean, what you're describing, that's what all of these shows are. And the reason they're all that way is because that's what works. That's what's popular. It's great narrative storytelling. You're peeling the onion and revealing the story as you go along. And that includes giving the bullshit information and then getting all the sensational angles and perspective and then maybe wrapping it up with what's real at the end. But that's optional because that's not part of the equation of whether a show is popular or not.
Yeah.
So I understand that. And that's probably always what's going to be the bulk of what's on television.
It's horrible.
My stuff is not that at all. And this
Good.
movie is not that at all.
Good.
I don't do any of that.
Yeah, because we watch a show and it seems like I like the novelty of stuff. So I watch it once in a while. But most of these, if not all, are so pro whatever it is. Pro, yes, aliens have visited us. Yes, Bigfoot walks around.
Conspiracy theories.
For I mean, and all this stuff. And then at the end, you might get like one guy
the
or
last
one
2
person
minutes
is like, well, it could be this other thing, and that's it. They get like 30 seconds to a minute for the entire show. So it's nice that something like this is going to come along, and we're going to see more of just the science, and that's the focus. I like that. I like that a lot because I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear like halfway through you do all this science stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is great, go science, and then like, some jackass pops his head on and is like, no, you know what? I'm reporting from my mother's basement. Yeah, I know for a fact that I was abducted, and now people are going to be pissed off. Why are you going to be in mom's basement? But yeah,
those guys have plenty of other platforms. They don't need me to.
Yeah, they got
exactly.
Tons. Any horror stories like along the road? I mean, stuff always goes wrong. So what's your funniest story?
Well, really none of them were funny.
Well, not at the time, at least.
well, one, I'd say there was 3 good stories from this. I'll take them in order of ascending drama.
Okay.
First one was when I was at Jimmy Carter's house. So that was my favorite day from the filming, is going to Jimmy Carter's house in Plains, Georgia. As you may know, Jimmy Carter famously saw a UFO back in the 1960s before he was president, and he was always very open about that. And he was always also very clear that he had no belief that it was aliens or anything. He just didn't know what it was. It was unidentified, it was flying, and it was an object. And that's his quote from the movie. Now, just to be clear, I did not have Jimmy Carter in the movie. I mean, you've probably seen the news. The Carters are quite old now. They're not doing super well. I did meet Rosalind Carter very briefly while I was at the house. I did not meet Jimmy, but it was a wonderful, wonderful day. I was there at the invitation of their grandson, Josh Carter, who, if you remember, I think it was 2012. I'm not sure if that's right. The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe podcast had Jimmy Carter on the show as a guest, just over the phone.
Yeah. Okay.
And he told the story of his UFO sighting. And so we cover that in the film. And so my interview in that was Josh. So Josh and I are sitting in Jimmy Carter's office and everything.
Wow.
Now, to go to the Carter's house, this is an ex-president, and the property is controlled by the Secret Service, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's not really a great story, but to go there, we just drive up in Josh's car, and there's a one of those gates that goes up, and there's a little speaker box, and And they go, "Hey, is that you, Josh?" He goes, "Yeah, all right, come on in." The gate goes up, and that's it. We go driving in, and as we park and get out of our cars in their driveway at their house, beautiful part of Georgia. This guy comes walking over. The Secret Service has their own little house on the same property, a little short distance away, and he comes walking over and just says hi and meets me. "What's your name?" I just said Brian. Didn't even give my last name or anything. I just said Brian. "Ah, great." And then we're in there, we're working for 3, 4, 5 hours, however long it took us to do the shoot. And as we're leaving, I come out and he goes, "Hey, what's your name again? Brian, what's your last name?" "Dunning." "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, cool. Great to meet you, man." And he goes back to the house. I said to Josh, he's like looking me up on every database on the international terrorist database, right? He goes, "Yep."
Yep, he is.
So anyway, the Secret Service guys were all very nice. But they chose to be nice. They probably had the ability to not be too nice.
Right.
So that's that story. It's not a fantastic story, but it was still kind of fun and interesting to do that. But what a great day! What a great family! I mean, no kinder, more generous family will you ever meet than the Carters. The whole extended family.
That's awesome.
We back when they used to do they haven't done it for, I guess, some time because they're getting quite old, but they used to do the Habitat for Humanity, building the houses and everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so they would do this in work crews, and everyone knew that their work crew, that Jimmy and Rosalind Carter were the head of that crew and everything. And at the end of the day, they would have just like a potluck dinner in the tent. And there was this one couple that they were working with that said, "Hey, does anyone have a guitar?" And someone finds a guitar, and this guy starts singing songs. And that's when, for the first time, everyone realized that they'd been working with Garth Brooks and his wife, Trisha Yearwood.
Wow.
They were just people in hard hats building a house. Nobody knew.
Wow.
And so that's when the Carters met them, too.
Wow.
They had just arranged to get on the Carters' work crew somehow. And they became very good friends. And Garth and Trisha gave them oh my gosh, I'm forgetting what year the Ford is. It's a classic old antique Ford.
Wow.
It was from the year that the Carters were married. So
okay.
75 years ago, whatever year that was, that's when this car, 1950 something, I think, give or take. And so Josh Carter says to me, "You want to drive it?" And I go, "Well, obviously I have to say no to that, but yeah." So we go driving around Plains, Georgia, in the president's old Ford.
How awesome.
And yeah, and he says, "All right, your turn." We pull over and we switch drivers. So I'm driving the thing around. It's a 3-on-the-tree manual transmission, and I guess nobody's been able to find third gear on that thing forever. So it's like you're driving in first gear for a long time, and if you're lucky, you can upshift to second. Took quite a bit of work though to get it into second. Yeah, it was an amazing day. We went into town and had lunch, and everyone in town knows who he is. And 1946. Thank you.
There you go.
Thanks, Bob.
I've got a picture of it somewhere, which I don't know. Nobody cares.
That-
Oh, let me grab this. Hang on.
Go grab
Oh,
it. Yeah.
Here, right here. So after I got back home, this shows up in my mailbox. It's a nice little framed picture of me
Oh,
driving.
That's
look
cool.
at that.
So Josh took this picture and had it framed on this nice little thing and sent it to me.
That's so
Again,
sweet.
they're just the kindest, most wonderful people.
Wow. Awesome.
That's cool.
So
That's cool. So who was out of all this, you interviewed a bunch of people, who was your favorite? Like who were you most excited to meet? Like that you got a chance to meet or interview because of this film?
well, him. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, everyone else I pretty much knew already, except for the astrophysicists. I wanted to find some astrophysicists who were new and upcoming science communicators,
Okay.
and hopefully this would give them a boost in their career. So it was a couple of new young people that I hadn't met. Actually, 3 of them that I hadn't met before. Dr. Caitlin Rasmussen, who has a book coming out called Life in 7 Numbers, which is a book about the Drake equation.
Oh, okay.
And her colleague, a young man named Miles Curry, who was not yet a PhD, he was still working on it. And then for an astrophysicist, I got a guy named Dakota Tyler, who is a former college football star
Nice.
Once all these old football awards got injured and decided, I'm going to go get a PhD in astrophysics. So now he's got this
Everyone does.
super huge Instagram account.
Awesome.
Dakota Tyler. He's a very cool guy. Friggin' huge
I'm
too.
sure, yeah.
Cool. So this is coming out when? When do you see this movie like hitting out there?
So, excuse me. Presumably about again a month, give or take a week or two, is when I
Okay.
should have everything back. Soon as I do, I'm going to choose a release date and submit it and everything. But I'm also going to put it up on Vimeo because that's something you can just do yourself. People have to buy it. You have to pay to buy or rent it.
Okay.
That's just how it works. But I'm going to put that up ASAP. So for anyone who wants to see it quickly and doesn't want to wait for it to appear on the streaming services, you'll be able to. That's the fastest I can make it available. The website is theufo.movie.
Yes.
If you go to theufo.movie, then you can sign up for the mailing list. It just goes to me. It's just on a spreadsheet, and it's just I email everyone updates, so it's not a spam thing or anything like that. And of course, you can unsubscribe. But if you want updates on when and exactly where you can go to see the movie, that's how to do it. Go to the UFO movies, the UFO.movie.
There you go. Just put it in the chat room.
Nice.
It goes right to your website. Trailer's right up on the front, so they can see it.
Yeah.
Sign up for updates right there. That's cool. I'm excited for this. I can't wait. I mean, because I'm always asked the question about aliens and UFOs and what I think, and especially lately because so many videos have been released and or leaked. I'm totally putting air quotes all over that shit.
Yeah.
And it's constantly like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I was like, I don't know. Did you ask Mick West? Like, that's what I do. I wait till he puts it out.
Mick is in the film.
All right.
Mick's segment is the longest segment in the film, actually. Well, nobody knows or cares about this, but I, for my personal purposes, have it segmented into 17 sections, and his is the longest.
Okay.
We do go through the 3 famous Navy UFO videos. We go through the evil green flying triangles video. That's about it. I mean, we don't spend a lot of time on silly UFO videos. It's more
Right.
about, how will we actually meet aliens? Because there are realistic plans and there's realistic ways that I do believe that will eventually happen. It might be tomorrow or it might be in 10,000 years.
How do you think it's going to happen then? Now I'm curious. Like, how do you think this is going to happen?
Okay.
Tell me a story, Brian.
Okay. So, young Kenny.
Yes, Grandpa.
Oh my gosh.
To send a crewed vessel, a vessel with actual crew from one planet to another. We understand the physics problems involved and the faster than light travel problem and the time element. There's a whole slew of problems that we will have already talked about in the film by we get to this point. But let's say that it is possible. Maybe it's a multi-generational spacecraft or whatever. But we do get a spacecraft with people on board visiting another planet. That is a huge, huge, huge energy expenditure. You got life support and everything else, and presumably it's some return plan. Now, there's options to doing that are, I mean, infinitesimally less energy intensive. For example, uncrewed probes, like we did with Pioneer and Voyager. Now, these were pretty primitive examples. We could probably do a better job now, and in 100 years and 1,000 years, we'll do way better jobs. But uncrewed probes will always be much less energy intensive. So for every crewed vessel that visits us, we should expect many visits from uncrewed vessels first. But there's even an easier way than that reaches farther, faster, with, again, infinitesimally less energy requirements. And that's simple radio communication. Yes. They would send us radio signals first. We have sent radio signals. We've only done it a couple of times, and it wasn't a huge effort, but we've done it. And we're always listening. We are absolutely always listening. And we actually have one very plausible candidate signal that we have received. And we talk about that in the film, and we go into the science behind that. And one of the things that we do is we why that is plausible as a potential communication from one civilization to another. And a lot of that has to do with the frequency that it was sent on and why that frequency is important. What about that frequency is universal? Why is that the frequency that we would be listening on, that we would choose to send on? And why that's the same frequency that would meet those same criteria on the other side of the galaxy? So there's just a lot of really cool information in this. I mean,
you're killing me, Smalls.
awesome.
Like, I want to talk about all this. Like, I can't wait to see it, because I'm always, one of the questions I get, and I don't know if you have any input on this, is, when they talk about sending out radio frequencies out into space, the comment I get is, we do that all the time. There's AM and FM radio, but I don't think they're powerful enough transmitters. I don't know enough about that, so I don't know if that falls into what you were talking about or not.
No, actually, we don't talk about that, and it probably would have been good to do that. But the short answer is those are totally inappropriate signals, totally inappropriate frequencies to use. I mean, there's basically three criteria that you want if you're going to send a signal, and you hope to. Let's say we get spectrum data on some exoplanet. We decide, looks like there's life on that. We can see that it's got chlorophyll. We can see it's got industrial pollutants in its atmosphere. You can get that from not James Webb, but the next generation space telescopes. And we decide we want to send them a signal. We want, number one, a signal that will penetrate their atmosphere, that's going to get to them, that they'll be able to hear. Number two, we want a signal that's in a quiet band, that's going to stand out from whatever background noise there might be just in the universe. So it's going to stand out, hey, this is a deliberate signal.
Okay.
And number three, we want a signal, we want a frequency that it's going to be on a universally understood number. And really the best one to use is the frequency at which interstellar hydrogen precesses. That's a universal constant. And if you use that frequency, what you're saying is, hey, we understand science. This is not just random noise. This is actually something that was intelligently designed to be right here. So it calls attention to itself. So that's how you would send a signal. And if you understand math at all and physics, that's where you would go to listen for a signal. And so that's what we do. And we presume that that's what they're doing too, because they have all those same issues that we do.
Wow. That's a wow signal.
Yeah, the WOW signal.
Yeah.
The WOW signal in 1977, the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University. It was on a frequency called the waterhole frequency. 1.42 gigahertz is the frequency that meets all three of these criteria. And radio astronomers call it the waterhole frequency because it's like the water cooler at the office, or the water hole in Africa where all the animals come. It's where everyone would naturally come to congregate, because it is the signal. It is the frequency that meets all of those categories.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
It's very cool. It's like crazy, awesome, exciting.
Right.
So that's more of the science behind it. Like, how do you think, I know this is going to be a silly question. I mean, all these ancient alien ideas and stuff, do you think personally, do you think any of these videos or any of these claims so far has merit?
Pardon me, that was gross. I don't want to just give a blanket no, because then I sound like an evil skeptic who's out here to poo-poo everything. Instead, the way I like to answer that question is the importance of establishing a high bar for the quality of evidence that we accept. So one thing that I do go into in the film is we take several popular examples of what are believed to be the best case for alien visitation. And we look at why there is no usable evidence in those stories, and what kind of evidence we would need to have.
Right.
And the importance of having good quality evidence is, of course, because you want your claim to withstand scrutiny. If I'm going to say, hey, I've got right here, this is evidence of aliens. They got the old saying, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Well, why is the evidence for this case horrible? And what would the good evidence consist of? So I'll just say we're still looking for that great evidence. But it is findable.
So when you
I'm not trying to lay a wet blanket here, because I am very which is the good one, bearish or bullish?
I would think
Whichever one. I think it's bullish. I am bullish on the prospect of eventually us having some kind of interstellar community, even if that's just, once every 100 years we get a little signal back and forth to say hello. I'm very bullish on that possibility. So by no means do I want to lay some cloud of negativity on what is important to everyone who's interested in this phenomenon.
Yeah, that's fair. So what would be, I guess, for you personally, is there certain things that you would say are good evidence, or is this something that you have to wait to see what is presented before you can understand if it's good or bad?
Well, okay. I mean, evidence consists of, you got to get rid of all anecdotal evidence first, right? And anecdotal evidence is basically anything that can't be tested.
Yeah.
And what can't be tested is a video, a photograph. I mean, those can be faked. We can't say for sure that they were faked, but they can be faked. So they're anecdotal. They can't be, you can't draw testable data from them. There's nothing in a photograph of a UFO that you can test and say, my gosh, this is incontrovertible proof of alien visitation. So if we get rid of all the all the anecdotal evidence, what would remain? Well, okay, the WOW signal, that was empirical data. We have the data of the signal that was received. Now, we can't prove that it came from aliens. I mean, it could have come from anywhere. We know what was in the signal, what frequency it was on, and which exactly direction it came from. But we don't even know how far away it came from. There's no way to know that, for example.
So there's nothing. We didn't figure out what that was.
No. I mean, so the best explanation for the WOW signal is a radio signal that came from a point in space in the direction of Sagittarius. It might have been 100 miles away. It might have been 100 trillion miles away. It came. We know the direction it came from, and we know what was in the signal, which was no intelligent data that we were able to discern. It was just a single burst, really, but it was a fantastic burst. It was exactly what we would hope to find. So, I mean, the common example is, okay, what would be convincing evidence that aliens had visited Earth? Well, obviously, aliens. If we don't, I mean, and I think if aliens visited the Earth, we also talk about, okay, well, what are the aliens going to do? Are they hostile? Are they secretive? Do they just want to hide and view us without revealing their presence? Or do they want to jump out on the White House lawn and say hello? Well, if you talk about all the possible civilizations out there and all the possible motivations that they might have, again, we have one data point, which is ourselves. What would we do? We'd want to go and say hi. We'd want to go and meet them and find out everything we could and interact and set up some way to talk back and forth.
Right.
So I think that we would probably most likely encounter that kind of alien. But of course, that's just conjecture. It could be hostile aliens. It could be secretive aliens. We don't know. So in the lack of having an alien,
they could be following the Prime Directive. And
they could be following absolutely.
Yeah.
Like Star Trek guys who show up in uniform at a Renaissance fair.
Kenny, you're an alien.
One time. I'll never hear the end of it.
The classic thing that people say we would look for would be like a empirical evidence, like a piece of metal. And we can find a piece. It is possible to have a piece of metal that we can say, this didn't come from Earth. And that would just be by its isotopic content. Yes, we could fake it. We could come up with this particular alloy with these type of isotopes in it, but the expense would be tremendous. Astronomer Phil Plait gives a great example of this. He was, for a time early in his career, he was a calibration scientist on the Hubble Space Telescope. And they needed a piece of, I forget what kind of metal, but they needed it to be isotopically pure so that they could calibrate the telescope properly. And for like this tiny, tiny, tiny bit of metal, it cost I forget what he said, $150,000 or something for something. So if someone was going to fake like a piece of debris and say this is from an alien spaceship and make it withstand the scrutiny of metallurgical testing and everything else and isotopic testing, it would cost millions and millions of dollars. So, that would be pretty freaking compelling.
Yeah, that would be cool. And
But,
that's something we don't think about when you talk about conspiracies and conspiracy theories. It's like there is so much. I know you've mentioned it a lot on Skeptoid about how many people would be involved, how many people need to be involved with like big cover-ups, and someone's going to actually talk or something. But also the price, like you just said, to actually come up with something, an object to say this is proof. That's why it kills me sometimes when I see people like offer like some kind of evidence that they faked, and it turns out that they faked it, but they offer it and say, here, look, it's real, like a crystal skull or something like that. And they put this time and money into it, and it just for a hoax. It kills me. I'm just going on.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Maybe someone would do that. Why? I don't know. What are they hoping to get out of it? Just a kick? I don't know.
Well, we have a portal right back here. I mean, aliens walk among us.
Oh yes. Did you see my portal opener thing?
I did not.
Oh yeah. We got this at a psychic event.
This was at a psychic fair, and it's by a guy that charged it, and it definitely, if I hold it like this or like this,
like that,
I forget, I had to get the directions out. But it'll call to the aliens to come get me.
What is that made of? Some kind of resin?
It's resin. Yeah.
It's resin.
It's not even like nice
glitter.
With glitter in it.
Resin.
It's literally glitter
in resin.
And then these are shavings, like aluminum shavings, and then
little
a couple slivers of like rocks. But
does it work?
Not yet.
I don't know.
You haven't found success.
Try it.
The guy said that aliens do walk among us.
So I have a video that I'm working on, but I need a doctor, like a medical doctor, to help give me opinions. So if anyone's watching and you're a medical doctor, I need to interview you. But we went to the psychic fair and I recorded a lot. And as I'm recording, we're talking to this guy, and he says something about like he can see spirits and all this stuff, and he can even see the aliens. And I think he said something like the aliens that are here, and I'm like, whoa, whoa,
what?
You see aliens? And the guy's like, yeah. I'm like, are they in here now? And he's like, yeah. Like,
and he's like, yeah. Because he's like, where? Show me.
Point them out. Because I want to go see it. And then he started telling me about these things, and I was like, I'm not spending money on this. And then I spent money on this because I needed to have one. But that's my portal opener thingy. It's kind of like my space cell phone.
It's impressive.
Yes, thank you. It's sparkly. It's very, very shiny. So yeah. All right. So we are at an hour. We're going to take our pee break, which is a nice 4-minute break now because I added a few slides, and for somebody out there, I took out the whole spinny thing for my intermission. But we got 4 minutes. We'll come back and we'll get into some of your questions. So everybody that's watching, if you have a question for Brian, if you want to talk about it or ask a question about the movie or anything else that he does, just put a Q in front of it, put it in the chat room, and we will get to it in the second hour. So from there, I'm going to, where is it? There's my video. All right. I'll see you back in 4 minutes. Oh,
shit.
yeah.
Are we back? Oh.
We're back.
Oh.
We're back. I should warn people that there's a countdown. Once you hear the beeps, we'll see the countdown that, yeah, we're about to come back. But we're good. All right. You ready for some questions?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Uh-oh.
I'm not sure if my thing's reconnected or not.
You broke them.
I hear you.
I hear you.
Okay. It doesn't sound like they reconnected. It sounds like I'm on a different microphone now. But if that's okay, then...
It sounds fine to me. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Okay, good.
Good.
All right. We're going to get some questions and see how you do.
Let's see how you do.
Because now it's not like me having a conversation just asking you questions. Now you have to deal with all the people watching, especially the weird ones. Oh, speaking of which,
Oh.
thinking is power. So I don't know if that's John Guy or if that's Melanie.
It's Melanie.
Please ask Brian what he was doing alone with my husband in the desert.
You know, that's a private matter, and you'll have to get that information from him.
Anthony apparently gets around.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Whoa.
apparently he gets around.
Damn, I didn't know
I love
that.
Anthony. He's so much fun. All right, next question from Jade Kitten. This applies more to science friction. Doesn't that make you some kind of forced hypocrite? Were you concerned about that?
I would love to answer this, but I'm not sure I understand the question.
Friction. Doesn't that make
doesn't what make me a forced hypocrite? And what is a
I'm not
forced
sure.
hypocrite?
If you
If
can
they're forced, I'm
clarify,
not being hypocritical.
I think it was when we were talking about the science friction movie versus the UFO movie and how they were done differently.
I don't know. Oh, well, I don't know.
I would invite Jade Kitten to resubmit the question.
Okay. You
Rephrased.
can do that. Yep.
Yeah.
I would love to address that.
Okay. Next question. We got Bob. For the hell of it, did you film anywhere near Area 51?
You know, we didn't. I've been there actually. Way back in 2001, it was about a month before 9/11 happened.
Oh.
Me and a couple of buddies were in a Cessna 174, I think, and we on the aviation maps. I mean, you can see where Groom Lake is and everything, and the MOA, the military operating area that you're not allowed to go into, is marked on the map, so you can see where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it had kind of a blocky outline, kind of like a square wave outline. And so we were just pretty much following the outside of that contour, just trying to get as close as we could. And I'm there with my video camera, you know, taking video of Area 51. And the tower there, it's marked on the charts. It's got, you know, whatever its little radio call sign is. It's not secret. Everyone knows that the Groom Lake facility is there. There's never been anything secret about it. They got on the radio and they called us and said, yeah, hey, where are you guys going? So, well, we're on our way to Tonopah, but we're doing some sightseeing on the way. And he says, would you like me to give you a direct vector to Tonopah? No, we're good, thanks. And we just continued following their little contour around. I mean, you're not going to do anything illegal, and there's nothing they can do about it. You're perfectly legal to do that. But anyway, after 9/11, they greatly expanded that MOA, so you can no longer do the kind of flight that we did. But
right. The
closest we filmed near Area 51, we didn't talk about. Well, actually, I take it back. We did talk about Area 51 in the movie, but we were at the Owens Valley Radio Observatory, which is where we did actually most of the footage that's in the film. My narration was all shot out there, and it's not too far away. Okay. About a 45-minute flight, probably.
You've been to the other gate at Area 51 because I remember distinctly putting up a picture, so excited about being at the gate, and I think you made fun of me because I went to the
wrong
easy gate or the public gate, and you criticized me pretty hard.
There are two that I personally know of because we went to both of them there, and there may be others that I just don't know about. But there's kind of the main road into Area 51, the one that all the trucks and supply vehicles and all the buses and everything will take to go in and out of there. There's no gate or anything. It's just an open road, and at one point there's a sign that says, you can't go past this. You're on military property now. Okay. And we stopped our car there, and it was at night, and there was a white Jeep Cherokee driving around on some dirt roads up on the hill above us, and they got the little cop style spotlight right by the driver's window. They're like just kind of flashing it at us like this, just kind of
like, hey, we see you.
Hey.
And one of our guys completely panicked and freaked out. We're telling him, dude, we're not doing anything illegal. We're outside. We're legal to be here. And they weren't doing anything except flashing the light and hassling us. Right. But he was so panicked that we had to leave. So he didn't go in.
That was Kenny panicking. That was me. He was Kenny panicked.
Because we walked up to the gate and got kind of close, and she just went right up.
I went right up to it.
Right at the gate. Like here's the gate. And she's like, oh, taking a picture an inch away. And I'm going, oh, they're going to take you out.
Kenny's sweating it. He's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm taking a picture.
Nope, you're in a sniper scope right now.
I'm like, I'm not on the other side of the gate. I'm not trying to open the gate.
You're gonna trip. You're gonna stumble over. That's it. You're done. And I'm gonna run.
Kenny was sweating it so bad, and I'm like, "What the hell? You brought me all the way out here, and you're not gonna walk up to the gate?"
I walked up to the gate.
No, you didn't.
There's actually a number of people over the years who landed their planes on the airstrip there just to see what would happen, and I think one of them may have been actually a legit emergency landing.
Right.
But
wow.
I mean, they all have basically the same story. You land your plane there, which you can do, and you can call the tower because it's marked on the charts and everything. And they're not going to give you permission to land. But if you just land anyway, what happens is they just come out to you in a truck, military police. And they say, you're under arrest. You got to come with us. And then they call the sheriff. The sheriff drives in and picks you up and takes you out, and whatever they do with you happens from there. But I mean, they don't shoot you or kill you or anything like that.
Kenny thought they were going to take me right out.
I'm going home alone.
They're going to drag me under the fence, take me away.
And then the other thought kicks in. Well, there'll be extra room in the suitcase. I can take another carry-on. That means more books.
Oh, wow.
More rum.
That's a good turn.
Definitely. All right. There was a follow-up. I saw there was a follow-up from Shade Kitten.
Yeah, it was about the form.
About the form.
About the release form.
Oh, okay. And the release form being so draconian, saying we can do whatever we want with your footage, doesn't that make me a hypocrite with science fiction?
Correct.
Because science fiction is about people being misrepresented, where they edit the footage out of context and everything. No, it does not make me a hypocrite because we didn't do that. Right. And I never would do that. If someone doesn't believe what I'm hoping they will say, I'm not going to use them in the film.
Okay.
I'm certainly not going to put them in the film anyway and re-edit their sentences and chop and slice and dice the sentences, and which you can do in sound editing very easily. Right. Which is what happens to people, and those are the cases that we covered in science fiction. I didn't do that, and I never would do that. I am not some millionaire. I'm not Steven Spielberg. I'm not making tons of money off of movies. I don't need to do that. Right. And so I never would. So no, the having the draconian release form that says we can do whatever we want to with your footage is just it's a necessity of the industry.
Right.
If the industry doesn't have the freedom to make trailers, they're not going to buy your film.
Right.
So it's not that we hope to be able to misrepresent people or to treat them in any way unethically.
Right.
People do it. I would never count myself among those.
And it would destroy your reputation. I mean, you don't want to do that. You don't want to put something out.
To the degree that I have a reputation.
Yeah. I mean, some people listen to you. I don't know who. I don't. No, I listen all the time. I love your podcast. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. You're welcome. It's one of the first science podcasts that I got hooked on. And
other way. Skeptoid. It says so right there.
There you go. Yeah.
Wait, listen to how Kenny says it. Go ahead.
Skeptoid.
No, how do you do his introduction?
Oh,
Come on now, you can do it.
So, dude, oh man,
Come on,
You got an impression of me. A lot of people have impressions of me, so go for it.
Kenny has a good one. You can do it.
I'm Brian Dunning, and this is Skeptoid.com.
Well, not only was that not very good, that's not actually what I say.
What do you say?
I say, I'm Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com.
There you go.
From Skeptoid. All right, try again, Kenny.
No. But every time we're in the car and we're listening, every time it comes on, I'm Brian Dunning.
Yeah.
Skeptoid.com.
From Skeptoid.com.
You could do worse in life. That's a fine aspiration to have.
It is. It is. It's funny. It's like, I do weird things like that. We watched The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
And every opening song, we build the pyramids. I sing it. I don't know why. I just sing it. I don't sing anything else. But I sing
pyramids, yeah.
And with your podcast, it's a weird thing. I just have to do it. I have to repeat you. Because I think it's funny.
It's just the voice, I think. It's just like
one of these days when I get a budget, I'm gonna hire you to do like a promo for me.
Yeah.
And,
no, you better build a big budget for that because I'm super expensive.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Especially, you better do it before the new video comes out.
Yeah, I know he's going to be all
prices are going to go up.
People are going to be like, "Oh, Brian Dunning." Oh, I know plenty of people hate him. That makes you famous. The more people you get,
yeah, you got to have your haters.
Yeah, you gotta.
Oh God, Kenny's got millions.
Oh yeah, they're fun. What do we got here? Hive Sigh. Kenny Biddle, will you thank Brian for his well thought out breakdown of Our Lady of Fatima and the miracle of the sun? Made it so easy to debunk. Well, Brian, thank you.
You're welcome. That was a very old podcast episode, probably 10 years ago. Yeah, the story was that 3 young children in Spain, or was it Portugal? This is how long ago it was. I don't even remember if it was Spain or Portugal.
Or oh my gosh,
I'm thinking it was Portugal.
I think it was Portugal.
Fatima. Fatima.
Can't even spell it. Come on.
Shut up. Let's see. Where is this?
Well, anyway, these 3 children had made a prediction that the Virgin Mary had appeared to them and was going to give them a sign of some sort on this particular day. Mm-hmm. And the story got publicized, and something like 100,000 people legitimately did come out to that area at that day and reported that the sun spun around in the sky. And that's basically the miracle. And then, you look at the photographs of what actually was happening there on that day, because there was plenty of photographers on hand. Mm-hmm. And you look at the fact that no other weather reporters or anyone reported anything unusual with the sun on that day. And then you look at how the story got started. And the story got started by the Catholic Church sent a guy specifically that this was a miracle. And he interviewed people with the intention of proving that this was a miracle.
Okay.
So he probably talked to a lot of people who said one thing. He probably talked to a lot of people who said something else. And he assembled the ones that he wanted into the narrative that he was instructed to create. That's not good evidence. That's evidence put through a filter of an imaginative author.
Right.
Who had a very specific goal in mind. So that, you can't draw a lot from that. Yeah. That's really what the case is with many of these UFO stories that are on TV as well, is they were either invented out of whole cloth by imaginative authors, or they started out as a very small incident where you go back to the original newspaper reports and you find that it was not very remarkable at all, but for some reason, someone wanted to promote it and draw it out and build it up, and it gets on one TV show, then the other network has to top that, then the other network has to top that back again. And the story grows until you've got this big, whole, huge narrative. All of that is terrible evidence. You've got to go back to, the earliest possible accounts of what the witnesses actually said.
Yeah.
And even then, that's, it's not, it's still anecdotal evidence. It's not empirical evidence, but you can get a much better idea of what actually happened that way.
Yes, absolutely. Go to the primary sources whenever possible. That's something I preach all the time. Yeah. Because you'll find out, sometimes you find out there's no mystery at all. There's nothing. And it's just, I mean, the recent episode about the Devil's Tramping Ground that you were talking about, like that had a little bit of where, like, one of the big claims was nothing ever grows in there. And the first reports talk about grass growing in the surf. Like the original report. Like, all right, so there is no mystery with that. It happened.
And another element that story had that's really common is that it asserted the existence of earlier accounts.
Yes.
Well, you can't just say, oh, this has been known for 100 years here. People 100 years ago were talking about this. They were. You say they were, but is there any evidence of that? No, there was no prior published accounts.
Right.
So, I mean, you can convince, if that's the amount of leeway that you have to prove something, you can come up with anything in the world and prove it. I can say that the Native Americans here in Central Oregon were saying that they lived among aliens 500 years ago. And that's persuasive to a lot of people, because people will say, oh, if the natives said it, then it's true, because natives were pure and not corrupt like we are. But if I don't have something in writing from the aliens, or excuse me, from the natives in this part, then I don't have anything at all.
Right.
Simply asserting the existence of earlier accounts does not count for anything.
Yeah. Always primary sources. All right. Next question. What else we got? Daniel Reed. What's your take on John Glenn and his perspective on UFOs? I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts.
Dan, I'm going to invite you to resubmit that too, unless someone can help me, because I don't know what John Glenn's perspective is on UFOs. Okay. I mean, I know he had the Fireflies report when he did his initial orbits of the Earth, and that was very, very soon discovered exactly what that was, which was, I think, bits of the heat shield were coming off or something. Or
yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was very quickly discovered what that was that he described as Fireflies. So there was no mystery around that. Beyond that, if he had any other thoughts on UFOs, I haven't heard them. So if you want to ask again, I'd be happy to do my best to answer.
I also want to piggyback a little on the last one. I've been to the Devil's Tramping Ground.
That's right.
And I was extremely disappointed. I mean, extremely. I think I drove 2 hours from where I was just to see it. Got out, said, "Oh, this is the path. This is where it is on the map." Great. I walked a total of 30 seconds into the woods, and here it is. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. I see this at home. I used to party in these.
I could do a better job in my backyard.
This is nothing new. There's nothing special about it. And
I had the same experience in Hopkinsville. Remember the Hopkinsville aliens?
The goblins?
I noticed I was driving, and I noticed, hey, that's not too far out of my way. I'll go by there. And that was equally disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few really crappy houses with very depressed, very economically disadvantaged people, and it's like, which one was it? I'm not even sure. And I'm bothering these people by standing here, and boy, this was not worth my time.
Right.
Yeah. All right, cool. Coming up, Dana. Hey, Dana. Do you know why Carter claimed to have seen the UFO in '69 but didn't file a report until early '70s?
I don't know the answer to that. That's an interesting question. It could simply be that it wasn't until and actually I can't even confirm those dates. I'm taking your word for it. My guess would be that it wasn't until then that the story became known to the MUFON people, the Mutual UFO Network, which was the report that he first filed, and they asked him, would he please file a report? I don't know. Right. His initial report, which you can find online, was handwritten on their report form, and it was not super legible. And they then reproduced a version with his answers typewritten on it, which was a little bit shady because that's not what he did, but they produced that and presented it as if this is Carter's original report. Well, no, it's not. Okay. His wasn't typewritten, it was handwritten. But I don't know the answer to that.
So I looked it up real quick, and it looks like his sighting was in 69, but he didn't report it until 73. And that's because while serving as governor of Georgia, he was asked by the International UFO Bureau in Oklahoma City to file a report. So wow, yeah, that was 4 years later. So he was asked. It sounds like he wasn't even gonna write anything, but he was just asked to. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just from talking to the family while I was there, and that's not talking to him, so that's a little bit removed. I got the sense that at the time they all thought it was weird because it was him and 26, 27 other people. And they all thought, wow, that's weird. And then they all went on with their day. It wasn't an earth-shaking event at the time.
Right.
That's, of course, the sense I got from talking to the family. That's not from him personally. So
okay, cool. All right. Next question from Bob. Do you ask the astrophysicists whether they think that wormholes are actually possible?
We did talk about that a little bit, but it didn't make it into the film. One of the astrophysicists I spoke to was really big on I'm going to get the name wrong, the Alcubierre drive, which is
from Star Trek.
Yeah, this was a guy who said, "Hey, how could a Star Trek warp drive actually be theoretically possible?" And he wrote a paper on that, using his best understanding of physics to theorize, "Hey, how could you possibly make something like a Star Trek warp drive?" And a lot of people have kind of latched onto that to say, "Hey, scientists say warp drives are real." Well, no, one guy made some pretty wild speculations about it. That was anchored in real bits of physics. And one of the people I spoke to was big on that idea. But that wasn't something that we were talking about in the film, so it didn't make it into that. That was not a deliberate cover-up by me of, oh my gosh, wormholes are real after all. I mean, there is science on wormholes. You're basically talking about folding space.
Yeah.
And it would take more energy than has ever existed in the entirety of the galaxy to move one proton through a wormhole. So as far as being a practical form of transportation, we're not even in the neighborhood.
So you're saying that there's no stargates. That's what I hear.
So the interesting thing is, and we do talk about this in the movie.
Oh, yeah. Talking about Stargate, I love it.
What's the natural reply to that? The natural reply is, well, aliens are more advanced than us, so they know more than us, so they can do more than we can.
Okay.
We do address that point very thoroughly in the film.
Yay.
Yeah. Because that is kind of one of the big thorns in the side of astrophysicists who are always dealing with this question. Math is math. 2 + 2 = 4 here, and it equals 4 on the other side of the galaxy, and it equaled 4 5 billion years ago. There are certain things that don't change, and we even go into the ways that we know that they haven't changed. You can't just assert something. You can't just say, oh, the laws of the physics are the same everywhere. How do we know that? We cover that in the movie.
Yes.
Well, maybe the laws of physics were different 5 billion years or right after the Big Bang. Here's how we know that they weren't, and we show what the evidence is and how we know that. So we do cover those answers in the film. And I'll just summarize by saying, oh, but aliens are smarter than us, so they're magic. That doesn't fly.
Oh, all right. I can't wait for this to come out. Like I want to sit and watch it and then talk to you again.
Well, we can have him back on.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Lisa says, Brian, what are you going to do, if anything, about the fact that some bots are flagging your new UFO movie as conspiracy theory because of the ambiguous title? What a pain. Is that happening?
I don't know what she's referring to there. If that's the case, I would be delighted because that's the audience that most needs to see this.
Yeah, it
For
is.
people who do think that this is a, I mean, they always talk about this guy, Jeremy Corbell. Okay. I mean, he's some YouTube guy that makes movies saying, and he absolutely insists that aliens visit the earth. And every piece of Navy video, everything, he puts his own little name stamp on it, trying to make it look like it's his video. That even one shot, there's even that in my film that has his name stamp on it.
Wow.
Because that's the version that's available. Sorry, that doesn't make it yours, dude.
So he watermarks all of these?
Yeah.
Wow.
Anything that comes through him, he watermarks.
Ballsy.
Just like that guy, Mike Adams from Natural News.
Ah,
That guy would literally steal memes that other people had made, and he would put his little watermark on it and then just retweet it on his own account.
Wow.
So crazy. Anyway, no, for everyone, science-minded people, skeptical people don't need to see my movie. The people who would benefit most from my movie are the people who are most down the wormhole of aliens are visiting us today. So to the degree that that's happening, how do you say that? Is it Liz or Lisa or Liza?
Lisa.
To the degree that that's happening, I would be delighted.
Cool. All right. The next question. I mean, that would be funny, because if they flag it as a conspiracy theory, like you're going to get all the people. Yeah, you're going to get all the people that you want. So, what do physicists today think about Einstein's theory about the warping and bending of space-time for travel? Would it be faster than the speed of light?
Well, again, I think we just spoke about that a minute ago to a little degree. We don't really go into that in the film because it's not really part of the real science involved. There are I don't disagree that it's certainly relevant, but an hour-and-a-half documentary, you can't follow every path of everything that's relevant down. So while that might have been a great topic to cover, it's not something that I had time for in the film.
Right. Okay. And Redman, hey, buddy. This is probably part of the segment. That's great.
So this is a good point. I mean, you might be tempted to ask, do I debunk Bob Lazar in the movie? No. I made a very deliberate effort early on in this project that this is not about attacking any individuals or even attacking any points of view. I don't even mention any ufologists by name in the film, except one or two cases where it's the author of a book that we're talking about. But this is not about proving people wrong. It's not about attacking people's points of view, no matter who they are, no matter how wild or way out there they might be. This is about science.
Good.
It's not about wacky people promoting crazy viewpoints. Two totally different kinds of movies. So no, we don't talk about Bob Lazar in the movie or any of the other personalities that you might be interested in.
Good.
Yeah, you've done that enough. I think you've covered all of them. Like didn't you do like a 3-part or 4-part episode with all the people that started the big UFO?
The whole. I called it the Rogues Gallery. They call themselves the Invisible College. The people since the 1960s with Project Stargate and the CIA.
Yes.
And the basic belief is that that aliens are the same phenomenon as poltergeists. They're interdimensional beings. And I mean, you're just talking about people, smoking fat ones late at night. This is not a science topic.
No, not at all. All right. Tea and Spirits. Hey there. Have either of you watched or enjoyed Stranger Things? And did either of you play D&D?
Oh my gosh. I've got to say that I have not done either.
Ooh.
Although I've been very interested to watch Stranger Things. I've just never been able to find time for it. And my daughter is a very experienced dungeon master. But I've personally not played. Well, I did once. We were online on something, and I had to play as part of a game, and I think she was actually the dungeon master on that. And she said I did a very good job.
Okay.
But no, I have bred well, if that answers your question.
Okay. So I have I've done both. I've watched Stranger Things, and it's okay. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. I did particularly like the Metallica solo guitar ending that was for the end of the last season, I think. Really good. And then as for D&D, I was just talking about it with my coworker Eric, whose office is behind me here. We have a game night here at CFI where people can come. Like I think it's once a month, right?
Yeah,
it's once a month, and they bring board games and card games, and everyone gathers out in the seminar room and they play games. And we were just chatting about maybe having an offshoot that does D&D, because like I grew up playing it. I grew up playing a lot. I was a total nerd, like pizza and chips and soda all day in a basement. Yeah, kind of nerd. I know, surprising, right? But yeah, we're gonna try and get that going here. So anybody in the Buffalo area that likes to play D&D,
hey,
very cool.
Yeah, get our nerd on. Play some D&D, drink like Red Bulls all night. Serpent Knight, that's a cool name. Does it get brought up that if intelligent ETs exist, they're astronomically unlikely to be humanoid, the standard grays or otherwise?
I did read a paper about that once that was making the argument that they would be, roughly humanoid because the problems involved in becoming civilized, like making fire and things like this, it requires certain abilities to manipulate your environments. You've got to have something like hands. You've got to have something like binocular vision, or at least, echolocation of some extraordinarily high resolution. And it was interesting, but I don't go into that in the film. I do, anecdotally, I think there's probably some validity to the concept. They don't necessarily need to be humanoid, but they need to have the same basic abilities as humans.
Right.
Right.
You need to be able to move around, so you got to have something like legs. You got to have the ability to manipulate your environment to a high degree of detail to make technical instruments and things. So you've got to have something like hands, and you've got to have sensory instruments like eyes or ears, or something equivalent. So it's a very fascinating topic, which I love, but it's largely speculative, if not entirely speculative. So it's not something that it's not a road I chose to go down with in this movie.
Cool.
That's a wonderful question.
That's good. Yeah. All right.
Okay,
what else
then we
got?
just have a statement.
A statement. Heath Edwards, his documentary could be the next movie night.
I strongly agree with that.
So how is that? Because I know like science fiction, how it's distributed, and like we're still planning on having a movie night here with that. But is this going to be something that we can do public viewing of? How does this work?
Yeah, so I mean, these days anyway, and the movie industry has been changing dramatically a lot over the last 10 years. But basically, any distribution agreement is not exclusive. So I retain the rights to do whatever the heck I want with my movie and science fiction and everything else with Skeptoid Media. We always make them available for educational purposes. Anyone can have a screening they want for free, as long as they're not charging money and trying to make money off of it. But so the same deal would go with this. I can grant anyone the rights to do anything they want with it, whatever I want to, regardless of any distribution agreements. And so it's always going to be available free to educators. However, that's also part of fair use. Educational use is fair use by U.S. copyright law. You can't prevent people from using a film for educational purposes, as long as it's legitimate educational purposes.
Right.
I do hope to be able to produce accompanying educational materials for this movie, which we've done at Skeptoid for all of our films, and which are freely available to educators. Okay. So if you want to show science fiction to your high school, college class, whatever, you've even got free lesson plans already made out for you. That's cool. I would hope to do the same thing with this, although again, this is a personal project. Strictly speaking, it's a personal project. It's not through Skeptoid Media, so I don't have Skeptoid's resources to do that.
Right.
But I have some connections there. I think we should probably work something out.
I think you know some people. I think you'll be okay. Are you planning any kind of tour with this? I know you traveled a lot with science fiction. I don't know. Are you
no, there's no money available.
No. Okay.
I am not some independently wealthy dude, so
what?
I can't do that. I would love to. Trust me, I would love to. And I will gladly bring it anywhere anyone wants to pay the expenses.
That's awesome.
I can't just proactively do a tour.
Right. I hear you. I mean, I would love to tour the country and the world, but I need someone to pay me to do it.
Yeah, well, we did that. I mean, at the end of 2021, which we thought at the time was the end of COVID.
Right.
And it was right as Omicron was starting.
Yeah.
I did this 8,000-mile driving tour of the U.S. I went to 14 cities and 14 nights, just representing Skeptoid, and I gave a presentation at every one of those. Sometimes we showed science fiction. Sometimes we showed Principles of Curiosity, one of our other movies. Sometimes I gave one of my regular talks. Sometimes we just had a pub night in a couple of cities.
Yeah.
But it was a blast. But then we looked at the accounting sheets and, this cost a lot more money than we thought. So maybe we shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
I mean, we are still trying to run a nonprofit responsibly. So
I went to the one in New York City and met up with
That's right. Oh my God. Yeah, and I stepped out on the sidewalk out of the parking garage, and you're like standing there. Just random. I remember that. That was a great surprise.
Yeah, you beat the horn, and I'm like, New York City, how the fuck did he find it? Like, oh, all right, cool. But we got to hang out. That was fun.
I hate driving to New York.
Oh my gosh, I hate
hope to
it.
never do that again.
Yeah. I mean, we've been there a couple times.
Yeah, I will never drive in New York.
Usually
New York City, let's make it clear now.
Going from Philly, when we'd come up to New York City, specifically for something, it was literally as soon as we crossed the river, crossed the bridge, there was one lane that went right into a parking garage. We went right there. Yep. That's it.
And we walked everywhere
else. Because I was like, you try to drive 2 blocks, it takes you 2 hours. It was ridiculous. So luckily I don't really have to do it. We can't complain about New York because we're officially New Yorkers now.
Well, you are.
I am. I got my license. Finally got my license transferred over. So I'm officially a New Yorker.
Is that how that works?
Am I going to talk like this?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
No.
All right.
Okay. I would like to point out that I offered 3 stories from the production in ascending order of drama, and I only got through number 1.
Okay.
So we've got the 2 more dramatic stories still to come.
Hit us.
Do we have any other questions that we want to cover right now?
Right now, we do not.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
So, story number 2 was the very first day of filming. Actually, the day that I interviewed Mick West and went through the videos with him and 2 other gentlemen as well. When I travel on a film shoot, I like to leave myself a task to do the night before in the hotel room. Just personal preference. And I had 2 brand new cameras that I hadn't used before. And I decided to configure those cameras the night before the shoot.
Oh, geez.
So I'm in my hotel room at 11 o'clock at night. Say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start going through the menus of these 2 cameras. And I had notes and everything written down. Here's all the settings you need to make in these 2 cameras, these 2 Sony digital cinema cameras. And I start going through the menus. And I make about a third of the changes. And then it comes to the frames per minute. And this film is shot in 29:97.
Okay.
And
frames per second.
The only option was 25. And I go, what the hell is 25? I mean, it's not even 24, not even 30. What's 20?
Yeah, what's 20?
And then I discovered just over the course of a few minutes of looking at these cameras and trying to figure out what the hell's going on, that these were PAL cameras, not NTSC. They were the European video standard, not the United States video standard. And there was nothing that could be done about it. There was no setting. No. Basically, what that comes down to is these cameras were locked into 25 frames per second instead of 29:97 or 30 or 24, the American standards. So I was going, you cannot shoot in 25 in a movie that's 29:97. It's going to look like crap. The video is going to look jumpy. Yeah. It's just going to look bad. And so I'm just sitting here mortified. And I go back to my receipts. I had bought the right cameras. But I didn't have the right cameras. I had the wrong cameras. And I'm shooting the next morning first thing. So I go online and I just crazy. Is there a firmware hack? And there was. There was a firmware that would adapt these cameras to NTSC. but you had to have a Windows computer with these cameras plugged in to do that. And all I had was my iPad. So I call the hotel front desk and I say, it's 11 now. It's like 11:30 at night. I say, hey, is there any chance that you guys have a computer center with Windows computers? And the guy says, let me go check. Wouldn't you think he'd know that?
Yeah.
He comes back and he says, well, we've got computers in our little business center, but they're not Windows or Mac. They're just regular computers. So at that point, I knew that my technical support options were limited. So I go down there. I even I found a USB cord that would connect the cameras to the computer. And as you can probably guess, these computers were locked down into some kind of a shell, some kind of a security shell that only let you do browsing and check your email.
Right.
And there's no way out of that.
Do your airport ticket.
And it's a really long story short. I got on the phone with tech support for the company that provided this secure shell, and the guy was super helpful. But the problem ended up being that these computers did not have internet access. There was something wrong in the hardware connection to these computers, which took us until about 2 a.m. to find out.
Oh.
So at that point, I just had to go to bed. He sent in a ticket saying our techs will be there at some point to fix it. And I set myself an alarm for like 5 a.m. and I go down at 5 a.m. This is amazing. The tech had been there, had fixed the internet problem. These computers now had internet. And while I'd been on the phone with the tech the night before, he was telling me to reboot the computer and hold down this key command and everything. And one of the computers I left logged in as an administrator. So I had the administrator computer with internet access, and I plugged in my cameras one at a time. I downloaded the firmware hack tool, and it worked perfectly on both cameras.
Wow.
And I mean, even at like 3 a.m, I'm online looking for all the computer stores and camera stores in the Bay Area. Does anyone have these cameras for sale? I was more than happy to go buy 2 of them.
Exactly at that point.
If I had to. So that was like the biggest bullet dodged, because that would have sucked ass. Yeah. I did not have headroom in this budget to make unnecessary trips, to make a trip somewhere that I couldn't do anything and would have to come back in a couple of weeks to do again. So that was amazing that worked. Wow. Now, for a lot of people, that's probably not a very dramatic story because you're not a dork and you don't understand the computer aspects of everything we talked about.
Kenny wouldn't have slept. Kenny would have been up all night.
I felt the panic, like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? This is not gonna work.
No, you wouldn't have slept though either.
No, I would not have slept. I would have been up, going crazy. Even when I fixed the problem, I still would have been like, nope, not going to sleep now. I'm wired. I'm totally wired. I can't do this.
So this brings us to the number one most dramatic story from the film shoot.
Yes.
So as I explained before, my narration was last. That was the last thing that we shot.
Okay.
And we shot that outdoors in the desert at the Owens Valley Radio Observatory. So there's a big radio dish in the distance behind me. Had a camera guy with a red digital cinema camera that's like, $16,000, and we could get beautiful video. I would be visible middle of the night. The radio dish would be visible behind me, and stars would be visible in the sky. If you understand photography, you know that none of that makes sense. None of that's possible. But these are such good cameras that was the case. So we're doing it and everything, and we started at like 7 o'clock at night. This was December in the Owens Valley, and it was in the 20s. Now, where I came from, it was like in the teens at my house. So 20s, that's fine. I'll be fine.
Right.
So I had on long johns. I'm wearing this sweatshirt. This was like my wardrobe through the film. So this is the only thing I wore. So I had long johns under it. I had hot packs all over my body, like 100 of them. And we start filming. We're filming for a couple of hours. I'm reading off the teleprompter. We're going through all of these scenes. And then I start slurring my speech. Like, the thing I couldn't say was special relativity. Special relativity. Yes. And like, what the hell's going on? It's like, I'm not
It's
super
so
drunk.
dumb.
Why can't I not speak? And it finally occurred to us, I'm going into hypothermia.
Wow.
Because it was so cold.
And it got worse and worse. And soon it became clear that we could not continue. And so we got through basically 2/3 of the movie. Now, this was very expensive. We had a crew there. We had a house rented on Airbnb. It cost a lot of money. There was no more money, nothing to stay there another night and do this again. So I'm like panicking. We cannot continue filming because I can't speak. And I started to have other symptoms. I got dumb. I'm walking in circles. I'm walking away.
Oh,
Now we were right next to our car. Our car was right there, and we had a Tesla parked there in camp mode that was 75 degrees inside. So we had a warming hut. Basically you could go sit in the warming hut whenever you needed to.
Okay.
And there was waters in there, warm water, and more of these heating packs and everything. And we were only about 15 minutes away from the house. So this was not dangerous, but it was necessary to get the shot, and we could not get the shot. And no matter what we tried, we finally had to give up and abandon the shoot and go back to the house. And this was one of the most despairing moments of my entire life, because we put so much into this one shoot, and having 2/3 of the movie shot is as bad as having none of the movie shot. I mean, you don't have the movie. You can't make the movie with that. And I was so low, but I was also so messed up and so hypothermic. And later I'm like on the internet going through what are the symptoms of hypothermia. And I'm like, yep.
had it.
I still don't remember most of that period because memory loss is part of it.
Wow.
When I went back to the house, I'm told that I took a hot shower that was really long, like 45 minutes. And then I called my wife, and then I went to bed. And I woke up sometime after midnight. And I'm like knocking on the other doors in the house and saying, guys, because I was okay then. Eventually I was okay. I needed a nap in the hot shower. I said, we gotta finish the shoot. We can't not finish the shoot. And I'm waking people up in the middle of the night now.
Yeah.
So long story short, we went back out there at 4:30 a.m. So 4:30 a.m., we go back out to the exact same location. And the cinematographer and the sound guy are setting up all the equipment and everything and the lights. And I sit down and start doing the shot. And we got everything matched perfectly. You will never notice that there's a break. You can't tell what in the movie we shot before that and what we shot after that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, that's good.
But
But
I immediately started getting hypothermic again.
wow.
And it's so surprising because, I mean, now right in front of me, it's out of the shot, but right in front of me, I had a coat, a hat, hot water bottles, more hot packs, everything you would need. But
right.
I'm doing so much on camera stuff that I was still just losing more heat than I could hold in.
Wow.
And we barely got through the end of the shoot just as sunrise was happening. And at that point, I experimentally tried to say special relativity, and I couldn't.
Oh.
So we got in the car and we struck the set really quick, and we got in the car and we split. But here's the brilliant thing about that is in the initial script, I start talking in the late afternoon in through the evening as darkness falls, and we finish in darkness. That was what I had written. What ends up being on camera because of this break and because of going back out there right until sunrise is we show up, I speak through the evening, through darkness falling, through the night, and then as sunrise happens. And the movie happens to end on a very hopeful, a very positive note. And just as I'm getting to that part in the narration, the sun comes up.
Nice.
And it's the most brilliant accidental piece of filmmaking ever. And it could not possibly have worked out any better.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a great story.
It's the best story from shooting the film, because not only was it legitimately dramatic and legitimately dangerous,
right,
but it ended up having this wonderful addition to the movie that we hadn't even speculated might happen.
Yeah,
and it makes it so much better than it would have been otherwise.
That's so cool.
And
That's really
you know,
Yeah.
again, as I'm learning about hypothermia. I learned that it's a legitimate brain injury, and once you get it, you're way more susceptible to it
Oh,
in the future for the rest of your life. So
oh,
I'm more susceptible to hypothermia now than
that's
other
not
people.
good.
Hmm.
At least you know, though. At least
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, at least I know. Don't mess with hypothermia.
Yeah, let's not
Yeah.
put Brian in the
You
cold
kids-
again.
You stay in school. You don't mess with hypothermia.
Yeah.
Maybe get a heater or two that to keep with you.
We don't have to do this outside.
Yeah, just to have blown on
Yep.
you or something like that.
Find other creative choices that don't
Yes.
require you dying of exposure outdoors.
Warmer climate.
How about a nice window you can shoot from, inside?
Oh boy! All right, we are at the end. Do we have one more question? Are we good?
There was one quick question Bob had about finding the educational materials.
Ah, yes.
There we go.
You
Bob,
can go to the website for the movie, which is sciencefriction.tv. And there's a very obvious link for them right there, and you can get them for free. I'm not sure. I think you might have to have a .edu email address.
Yeah, I think Bob's a teacher, so he's...
Okay, if you do, you're covered. If you don't, email me directly and I'll hook you up. You can reach me at brian@skeptoid.com.
Skeptoid.com.
He's doing it again, Brian.
There it is.
You're listening to Skeptoid, a listener-supported program.
Do you change your voice purposely?
No, that's how I talk.
No, it's bullshit. You've been talking a different way the entire show, and then you get into that, and your voice drops. It gets deeper. I can't even do it.
Well, that's only because I record the show early in the morning when my voice is gravelly anyway.
Oh, okay.
So
So I just posted the link to Science Friction in the chat room, so you guys can click on that and get there.
Bob does not have an EDU.
Okay, Bob, if you're a .org, email me at brian@skeptoid.com. I will hook you up.
Okay,
Awesome.
there you go, Bob.
There you go, Bob. All right. So we got Science Friction. I put that in there. We have the UFO movie They Don't Want You to See. And I put that in the chat room earlier. Skeptoid podcast. I put that in the chat room earlier. But there are all ways people can listen to you or hear your work or see your work. Did I get everything? Is there more?
Pretty much, that's it.
All right.
I mean, skeptoid.com is the headquarters for everything.
Yeah. And take a listen because, like I said, I've been listening for years and I enjoy it. It's
and he's still sane, people. So
yeah. Well, I mean, that's still debatable. We can get into details.
It might have slid on the scale a little.
Sliding scale, very long scale. But no, I've been listening for years, and it's always been just entertaining. I mean, it's nice because I do like it because you pack it into like an average like 15 minutes or something like that each episode. So
go for 13, a little shorter. Yeah, try to stay under 15 is the goal.
Yeah, I mean it's perfect. A little short.
1,750 words is the script length.
Yeah, but it's full of information, and I also like it that you go back every couple episodes and you do like, I'm updating because I made mistakes and
corrections and feedback.
Yeah.
And
love that because not everyone's perfect. I mean, I'm pretty close.
But the funny thing about the corrections episodes is, it's not an episode. It's not, a new piece of content. It's corrections to old episodes, and they are almost always the fan favorites. People love those corrections episodes. It may be because we talk about half a dozen previous episodes that have corrections in them.
Yeah,
so there's a lot packed in, but or maybe the people just love the idea of corrections. But they're fun to make. They improve the quality of the show overall, and people love listening to the corrections episodes.
I do.
Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
I love it.
See how he just gets into it. He just drops his voice,
and a big smile goes
right
on Kenny's face.
Like, that's cool.
Skeptoid.
That's what I know. It's like, oh, this is a road trip.
Yeah, we're in the car listening to Skeptoid.
Brian's on my radio. It's a road trip. All right. With that, I'm gonna just go over quick announcements. You hang out for a little bit if you don't mind.
Sure.
And we'll close out.
Yeah, everybody loved the show. It was awesome. Thank you, Brian.
So everyone at home watching, cheers, my friend.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of
Tink.
energy on this show tonight, but
Not a lot of energy.
No, there
Whoa,
we go.
that hurts.
there you go.
I know we had a lot of.
There you go, energy.
Energy.
Drink it up.
All right, so every Friday night we have the Skeptical Health Bar, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if we're doing a show next week.
I
You won't be
will
here.
not be here next week.
So I might go solo, just an open mic night. Maybe I can get somebody to come on with me and we'll just bullshit for 2 hours because
yeah, with no comments.
That's what I'm good at. No comments or questions because Donna won't be here to filter through them, and I don't look at that shit. Also, tomorrow, March 18th, from 2 to 3:30 p.m., Susan Gerbic will be doing I think it's a Zoom talk. I forget where. I'll find the link, but she's going to be talking about how she spent her lockdown, and I'm pretty sure that has to do with grief vampires. May 12th to 14th, I'll be in Rochester, New York for the Rochester Parafest. I'm going to be setting up my Skeptical Health Bar there, and Donna will have her Lucky Tiki Creations, I think, there. I think. Yes.
Something.
May 19th to 21st, I'll be in Pennhurst at Pennhurst Asylum for their Paracon. July 14th to 16th, I'll be in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania for their Battlefield Bash. And I don't think I'm setting up a table there. I think we're just going to hang out. I'm going to be on a panel discussion. So it's going to be the Token Skeptic with a whole bunch of other ghosts and demon hunters. So that's always fun. October 26th to 29th, I'll be in Vegas for PsyCon. PsyCon 2023 is scheduled, and I know they might start releasing stuff soon, little by little. I think they're going to.
They have to because
start releasing stuff about it. And
Good
then finally, November 4th and 5th, we will be in Woodbridge, New Jersey for the Para Unity Expo, which is always fun because that's usually I get the most activity, most people coming by.
I love that.
My booth.
I love that.
And asking questions and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. And that's it, everyone. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. I love talking to Brian.
Yeah, it was a great show.
And especially when we had the chance to go on trips and we meet up. He's my drinking buddy. Absolutely.
Cheers.
And
It's been said.
so
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Oh my god.
Yay.
So yeah.
Hey, there's a special St. Patrick's Day Myths episode of Skeptoid for
Oh.
this week's show.
This week? Oh, cool.
Yeah. True and false questions about what you think you know about St. Patrick's Day, and none of you will get 10 out of 10.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh.
10 out of 10?
I think the reason for that is because there's not 10 questions.
Cheater!
8, 7, something.
All right.
I
So
can't
everyone
wait.
else, have a great weekend. Be safe and remember, never stop learning. And we will see you later.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.